Our speaker this morning is Louise Jett. She is an ethical humanist, a media specialist, graphic designer, writer, and artist. In short, she's an educator, community organizer, and storyteller who strives to approach challenges with optimism and enthusiasm. An American Ethical Union certified leader, she is truly inspired by people who are dedicated to empowering and caring for others. She worked as a professor for 12 years and had experience facilitating conversations in restorative justice community circles. She earned her Associate of Applied Sciences and Associate of Arts from Lewis and Clark University, or Community College. Her Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership from Greenville University, where she received a full scholarship, and her Master's of Education from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in Education Policy, Organization, and Leadership, with specialization in New Learning and Design and Leadership. At her full-time job, she currently serves as the statewide branding manager for the state of Illinois. Louise loves to connect with others and having fun. So everybody welcome Louise.
Thank you, Bill. I also love Willie Nelson. And Redheaded Stranger, his album, is in my top 10 best albums of all time. So check that out. He also made a really good reggae album, if you didn't know that. Good morning. Let me pull up my notes. So nice to be with you this morning. And then I think I can click through here. So as Bill said, my name is Louise Jett, and my pronouns are she and her. So thank you for joining us today. In a world where lies are being used to shape our views, I want to begin with honesty. I'm afraid. It's only natural to feel fear about speaking with compassion and clarity in a climate where cruelty and division are shouting the loudest. Right now, simply living our values of dignity, truth, and solidarity can feel risky. Naming fascism feels dangerous. Historian and author of On Tyranny, Timothy Snyder, who by the way moved to Canada last year, reminds us that the greatest danger is denial and silence. Pretending authoritarianism cannot take root here, even when it clearly has. Democracy depends on participation, truth, and courage. Silence has never protected freedom. But across the country, books are being challenged and removed, election systems are facing unprecedented pressure, and educators and public servants are increasingly constrained in what they can safely teach or say. Voting and reproductive rights are under attack, and whole communities are being scapegoated as enemies. These are not random events. They are the tactics of fascism. Scholars tell us fascism always follows a pattern. First, it creates a sense of crisis, convincing people the nation is in decline or under attack. Next, it promises restoration, a return to some mythical golden age that never really existed. And third, it demands obedience, loyalty to a leader or to an in-group over fairness and truth. Finally, it suppresses pluralism, silencing dissent, erasing diversity, punishing difference. And it also concentrates power, weakening courts, the free press, civic groups, and any institutions that might resist. Does this sound familiar? I am naming these dangers not to invoke despair, but to give our situation clarity. Because the best kinds of hope begin with truth. And hope that inspires action is what we must cultivate together if we are to resist cruelty and protect our democracy. So today I ask, what does humanist hope look like, particularly in the face of fascism? Real, grounded, embodied hope that grows from compassion, from organizing, from daring to imagine something better, and from acting on that vision together. Winter dries me out. Okay. Hope is hard for me sometimes. There are mornings when I wake up and the news makes me feel paralyzed. Richard Adams, in his novel Watership Down, gave that state of being a name. He called it Tharn. Rabbits frozen in headlights, unable to move. That is what fear does to me. Makes me freeze up, unsure of what to do. Maybe it does that to you too. In Watership Down, Adams tells the story of rabbits forced to leave their destroyed warren and search for a new home. Along the way, they encounter two very different visions of community. One, ruled by General Woundwort. And this community is built on violence and fear, safety only at the cost of freedom. Rabbits survive there by submitting, by keeping their heads down, by living in terror. The other community, led by Hazel, is fragile at first, but rooted in trust, creativity, and care. It survives not through force, but through cooperation. This tale is more than a story about rabbits. It's a story about us, about the choices every community faces when confronted with danger. Will we live in Woundwort's world where power crushes dignity? Or will we build and protect Hazel's world where solidarity and imagination sustain us? Hope is not something we carry alone. Hope is something we practice together. Fascism thrives on loneliness and mistrust, making us feel we are safer in silence, safer when we keep our heads down. But silence and isolation are where authoritarianism grows. Fear divides us, but despair isolates us completely. Ethical humanism offers another path. It insists that hope is born in connection, that community is our mission, that the bonds we build with one another are not just comforting, they are acts of resistance. Community organizing is key to fighting fascism. Think again of Hazel's Warren in Watership Down. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't secure, but it was alive with imagination, trust, and love. That fragile beginning grew stronger precisely because the rabbits believed in one another. They didn't just survive, they flourished because their hope was shared. That is the work before us. To build communities that embody hope, to form circles of trust that resist fear, to act not as isolated individuals, but as people bound together by dignity and solidarity. And here's the thing, hope is contagious. It multiplies when we gather. It grows louder when we sing, stronger when we organize, brighter when we refuse to abandon one another. As humanists, we are free to question when propaganda tells us lies. We strive to live our values when those in power insist on building compliance. We affirm the worth and inherent dignity of all people when human rights are under attack. This is humanism in action, refusing despair, choosing truth, living our values out loud, even when fear tries to coax us into silence. Being in community with one another, supporting each other, striving together. This is the antidote to fascism. This is the power of us. This ethical society is the perfect place to turn hope into action and to work against authoritarianism. Elizabeth Cronnies McLaughlin of the Ripple Effect Institute has laid out 5 ways that we can fight fascism right now. First, build local power. Join or start a neighborhood group. Organize through communities. Organize through this community. Democracy is strongest from the ground up. Here you can find groups and teams. Y'all are up to some really good stuff, I know it. And you can channel your energy into meaningful local projects, turning shared values into real community change. Next, we need to amplify the truth. Support trusted journalism. Share verifiable facts when lies are being spread. Practice media literacy. Speak plainly and kindly, even when it's hard. Again, here, you're surrounded by people who practice honest, respectful dialogue, I hope, and I know. And you share reliable information. You give each other encouragement and also tools to push back against lies. Next, we need to show up in civic life. Humanists need a seat at all the tables. Vote, yes, but also go to meetings, hearings, listening sessions. Visibility matters. Presence changes rooms. As a part of this community, you never have to show up alone. Whether it's a town hall or a school board meeting, service project, protest at a library, we can stand together to make our presence felt. We have to hold institutions accountable. Accountability is love for ourselves and love for others. Write letters, make calls, ask questions, file public record requests, support watchdog groups. Expect integrity. Integrity should be the default, and explicitly say that out loud. Within the ethical societies, we can create resources to write letters, make calls, and take action together so that our voices carry further and they're louder than they would be alone. We have got to protect vulnerable communities. Stand beside those targeted by discrimination, neglect, and violence. Safety, neglect, and freedom must be for all, or none of us are truly free. Volunteer teams and service projects create concrete ways to stand beside those who are targeted, turning our values of dignity and fairness into lived solidarity. So these 5 ways are clear and practical. But when challenges feel heavy, even 5 can feel like too much. So just pick one practice, one step. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, the smallest ripples grow into waves. One person amplifies truth, another advocates for a neighbor, and together a movement takes shape. We have seen this throughout history. Ella Baker was one of the greatest architects of the civil rights movement, and you probably never heard of her. She didn't chase the spotlight. Instead, she motivated others to make a difference. When students staged sit-ins in Greensboro, Baker encouraged them to form the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee so that their courage would not remain a moment, but would become a movement. When others said only charismatic leaders could drive change, Baker said strong people don't need strong leaders. This quote reflects her philosophy of grassroots organizing, empowering individuals to find their own voices and lead themselves rather than relying on centralized power. She advocated for a collective model of leadership where people discover their own strength and decision-making capacity, arguing that wisdom for change comes from those most affected by oppressive systems. She believed in ordinary people working together, discovering their own strength. Baker carried lessons from decades of organizing, and she passed them to a new generation. She knew the courage of one group could become the foundation for the next. And she reminded us, bigotry and hate are undone not by one savior, but by communities of people across generations, building together for justice. And none of us is meant to do this work alone. We do it together, in communities grounded in care, curiosity, and shared purpose. In ethical societies, humanism in action comes to life when people gather around shared values and turn them into meaningful participation. It looks like people learning together, serving together, and supporting one another as they grow. It looks like clubs, teams, and small groups where connection becomes action, strengthening both individuals and the wider community. In many ethical communities, there are groups devoted to service, creating opportunities to care for neighbors through volunteer efforts, mutual aid, and acts of compassion. There are groups devoted to discovery and support, bringing people together to learn about community needs, uplift important causes, and extend generosity beyond their walls. And there are groups devoted simply and profoundly to relationships, spaces where people gather around shared interests, laughter, conversation, and friendship, building the bonds that make ethical living sustainable and joyful. I want to invite you for just a moment to imagine yourself in one of these groups. Imagine sitting in a circle, talking with others about what matters most to you, and feeling your own ideas deepen because of their perspectives. Imagine standing shoulder to shoulder at a service project, doing something concrete to make the world better, and knowing you're making an impact. Imagine singing, or laughing, or learning together, and feeling that spark of belonging, that reminder that your life is tied to the lives around you. And if you can't imagine yourself in any group, maybe you can get creative and start your own. If nothing else, being in community can help us cope through this chaos. As humanists, resilience is not waiting for some deity to save us. It is sustaining each other. It is building communities where people can rest, recover, and still belong. One voice inspires another. One simple act of courage multiplies. What begins as a drop becomes a wave, because we do it together. Humanism is a big tent. It welcomes those from many paths: atheists, agnostics, spiritual people, seekers, artists, scientists, activists, parents, free thinkers of every kind. If you are committed to dignity and truth, you belong here. Belonging doesn't mean conformity. It means you bring your whole self, your doubts, your convictions, your creativity, and your questions, and you discover what you bring has value to the entire community. Some of us come to an ethical society seeking a place to raise children with compassion. Some come looking for friendship or joy. Others come looking for justice. And still others simply come for a safe place to breathe. And every single one of those reasons is valid and important. Because humanism is not about what you believe. It's about what you practice. It's about connection, responsibility, and action. It's about discovering that no matter where you are on your humanist journey, there is a role for you here, and we need you. Because fascism just doesn't threaten our democracy. It threatens people. It thrives when we are silent, scattered, and afraid. And that's why we need everyone. Every ethical act, every moment of kindness, every voice raised in solidarity. Fascism counts on our silence. Hope relies on our participation. And the ethical society is where that participation begins and continues. We stand together when fear tells us to hide. This community is our training ground for courage, our shelter in the storm, and our launching pad for action. I begin by admitting that I'm afraid, but my hope is stronger than my fear. We have each other. We are enough. As ethical culture John Lovejoy Elliott said, "I have known many good people who did not believe in God, but I have never known a human being who was good who did not believe in people." And I believe in us. Communities like this, ethical societies, they give me hope. Thank you. And does anybody have any questions? Usually we talk. Very different. Yes?
Simply, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
Fantastic.
thank you. And I'm calling you into community organizing. And I want to suggest a book. It's called The Culture Code. I can't remember. I'm reading it now. By Daniel Coyle. It's really about teams at work, but the principles that he discusses, I see everything through an ethical humanist lens, and this book is full of ethical humanism and how to make small groups effective, right? And one of the ways is to build safety, and that's the first thing that you have to do. And then another important thing is listening. Truly, eye contact, not suggesting, not fixing, being present and listening. Some people never experience that, but that's how you build community. So really, talks like this, where I just talk at you, no, it doesn't really build community. It inspires, it motivates, it's great. Like, I carry the platforms with me throughout the week, but it's the small group work, the volunteerism, the ethical action that builds community. Andy.
I've been, like all of you, I've been very interested in what has been going on and is still going on in Minneapolis. And it's horrible in a lot of ways, but it's inspiring to see how many people, not just a few, the whole city is organized and resisting these fascist efforts. And it just makes me proud. I'm proud of those people. I'm proud of them.
Yes, activists make me proud too. It is. It's very inspiring. But how can we meet the challenge before it comes? How do we have the solidarity? We're going to have to solve this fascist problem. We're going to have to hope our elections can save us from the destruction of democracy. I honestly believe that. And there's a lot of people that don't think they can. And they're just saying, don't even vote. I'm not in that camp. I'm still going to participate in the democracy. But we have to build resilience, have the solidarity so that if something like this happens again, we can prevent it, right? We could have prevented this presidency. The people who voted for our leadership are hurting. Our country is hurting. The first AU assembly, the American Ethical Union Assembly I went to, we had a Native American speaker. It was in New Mexico, I think. And she said, America, the United States of America has PTSD, and we call it patriotism. And I will never forget it. It rang so true. We have to evaluate the way we practice capitalism, the way we practice our society. It's interesting too. I was thinking about this on the way here. I've been in humanist space, and people will talk about love. And people will they'll be like, love, whatever. Like, that's just a feeling. That is nothing. Love is unimportant, right? Because I can love somebody, but they might be harming me or whatever. They're just, like, I have this anti-love attitude. I get it online too, if I post something about love. So let's think of love not only as a feeling, but as an ethical action. What does it look like to love ourselves first? Because that's where you got to start. One ethical culture leader, Jay Hooper. You got to do the me work before you can do the we work. So what does it look like to love myself? What does it look like to love my community? What does it look like to love my country? So love's not just a feeling. It's not just some ethereal thing that we can't own. Love is ethical action. So I want to reframe that because in space, these are women who are bringing up this love, yuck, let's not talk about love. Let's talk about action. But I really think it all starts with what does it look like to love ourselves? What do we owe ourselves? What does it look like to love our community? What do we owe our community? What does it look like to love our country? And what do we owe it? And we have to prevent fascism and authoritarianism from, because this is hard, y'all. Like, it's going to be hard. I'm really worried. So let's prevent it from happening again once we get over this bump. And we do that with community and solidarity. The same answer of getting out of it is the same answer for staying out of it. You know, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a Supreme Court justice. Seriously, I was so patriotic. I wrote about this. My mom let me pick out decorations for my room, red, white, and blue. I picked out little teddy bears that had American flags. I believed in American exceptionalism. I'm always naive. But so I love my country. And this is how loving my country, for me, this is what it looks like. Telling people, warning people about fascism. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking a lot about the AAU's tagline of building more ethical communities. And it doesn't extend, it's not just this community. Every one of us is involved in so many different communities. And we have to take our our ethics to those communities. And we have to extend ourselves beyond ourselves here. Ourselves, yes, we give ourselves the strength to move out there, but we have to be out there to begin with. And I'm not talking about family community, work community. It doesn't have to be something.
School board, city hall.
Well, it doesn't even have to be those organized. It could be just,
PFLAG.
Getting together with neighbors or something of that nature.
Barbecues,
So,
yeah. Relationships.
Yes.
It's really hard to demonize your neighbor when you know them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm from Macoupin County, Illinois. And in Staunton, we had a family owned a Mexican restaurant, had lived there for 20 years. And the owner was arrested when dropping his grandkids off at school. And I saw people become activists overnight. But it shouldn't have to be in our backyard, and it shouldn't have to happen to us. Because we're all us. Right? The othering is what is destroying us. Yeah, and just showing up. Humanists have got to be a seat at the table. Sometimes we're the only ones who believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every single person, no matter what they've done or what they believe. That's so important. Because we're going to speak up for humanity and dignity. And our freedom is tied together. Our oppression is tied together. And I started a Substack and I wrote about this recently, but fascism has always been in America. And Black scholars and Black intellectualists have been naming it for a long, long time. This is nothing new. And even if you study history, this is just old ideas, old stale bigotry, racism, bullcrap, repackaged and put on social media. Without a loneliness epidemic, there's no Trump presidency. Without income equality, where it is at right now, there is no Trump presidency. So we have really got to come together and build community. Another thing I was thinking about on the way here, I was like, if I ad-lib, I'm going to talk about this stuff. Fahrenheit 451, right? They're all alone in the room. The distractions are on the screens, on the walls, all around them. Distractions are in our pockets now. They're everywhere. We don't have to be at home to be surrounded by all this propaganda. So I think, there's a trial going on right now against Meta, Instagram, Facebook, that's harmful for children. And it 100% absolutely is. It's unregulated. It's a textbook case for why regulations should exist. But in the times we live in, power is so protected. No one is speaking up for people. It's power over people. And that's the opposite way around. We have the power. We are the United States of America. We are our government. They spend our money. So we have got to take the power back. Part of it's community, part of it's this low road, low quality capitalism that we practice has got to go. If we want to continue with the capitalism that we have now, we need basic universal income, period. And we probably need it anyway. But this is so unfair for people to work 40 to 80 hours a week and can't afford a home or health insurance for their children. We need to look at the American dream. What is it? What does it mean to us? And if you decide it's not important to you, that's your decision. It's your life. You get to do what you want with it, but at least decide, right? I feel like so many of us, this is how things are, and we just go along with it. So what does it look like to be an agent of change? And that's really what this is calling for, but you don't do it alone. And thank goodness for ethical societies, because we have these communities to do this together. And I like to say that I saw James Croft, former leader of the Ethical Society of St. Louis, at Pride, and he ended his speech with, we have each other, and we are enough. And I don't know any other words that have spoke more truly to my heart. I believe in us. So thank you.